Ya estamos transmitiendo en vivo entonces este interesantísimo conversatorio de HSE Solutions, donde vamos a navegar en el interesantísimo Portal del Contratista como una de las herramientas que vamos a poder manejar en nuestra gestión de seguridad y salud en el trabajo. Contamos con dos invitados de lujo, en este caso de Irlanda está Dan Gallagher, que va a ser la parte principal de nuestra disertación, nuestro conversatorio, y María Laza, quien está desde India, también con nosotros haciendo la traducción simultánea. Edward Castejón desde Atlanta. Adelante, Edward, con las palabras formales de bienvenida para el inicio de este conversatorio tan interesante sobre el portal del contratista. Adelante, Edward.
Bueno, primeramente queremos darle las gracias a Dan y a Dan Gallagher y a María por haber aceptado nuestra invitación. Para nosotros realmente es un placer tenerlos hoy y gracias por la oportunidad de dar a conocer a través de nuestra empresa la existencia de este excelente software que estoy seguro va a ser de mucha utilidad para las empresas y para los profesionales para controlar la mitigación de los accidentes ocurridos por contratistas. Gracias y podemos empezar cuando ustedes quieran.
Muchas gracias, Eduardo. Okay, Dan, it's your time.
Adelante, María, adelante, Dan.
Okay, hola, and so thank you. And today I'm going to cover some topic around contractor management. Just before I begin, how many people on this webinar wish they had a system to manage all of their contractors? And afterwards, if we had even a one in the box. And then also, how many people on the webinar today wish they had a system to manage all of their contractors, but that was really easy to use? If you had a two in the box, that'd be great. Okay, so maybe, just go to the next one. Maybe you face difficulties in trying to get your contractors to align with your standards, your own company standards. Maybe you don't even know which contractors are coming into your facility today, tonight, at the weekend. Potentially, your team assumes that all of your contractors are following the right procedures and nobody's checking. And perhaps maybe there's a lack of communication between you and your own contractor team. Envisage, if you like, having a system where you had a very, very structured onboarding program. We know you have typically in any size organization, there will be quite a few contractors and subcontractors. But how do we onboard them to our company requirements? Picture a situation then when you know exactly which contractor, which subcontractor, which subcontractor is actually coming on site. Visualize having all of this information in the form of a traffic light dashboard. Green is good, red isn't good. You're not coming to work with us today. And imagine where you have all the roles and responsibilities of managing contractors clearly defined as well, both internally in your own company and externally outside as well. So inside there today, I just wonder, if we think about why contractor management, why is it important? Well, it's important because you need, in many companies, we need the specialized experience that contractors bring in. So we need to use them. They're also human beings, so we need to protect them, and we need to protect the contractor employee the same way as we do our own employees. There's no difference. We also need to mitigate the risk. We need to avoid bringing in contractors that are going to pose a risk to our business. We want to make sure that any contractor we are bringing into our business isn't bringing any problems with them, isn't bringing, we say, baggage. They're not bringing some bad attitudes, some bad practices. So we want to make sure that's not happening as well. We also need to be aware that the cost of not managing contractors can be significant. We also as we grow our businesses today and you want to use more and more remote workers, it becomes even more challenging. And finally, you have the challenge of your reputation as a business and building trust. We want to make sure our business reputation is good in the community and that we can be a trusted organization and that we're seen to do things the right way. Why should we consider managing contractors today? Why do we need a contractor management system? Well, I mentioned one point a while ago, the cost of not doing this is enormous, okay? So the cost of any incident coming in, you'll have to pay for the incident, but you'll also then have increased insurance claims. You'll have a decrease in morale among your employees in your business. So there are lots of negatives. And finally, as well, when is the best time to put in a contractor management system? The best time to put in a contractor management system, okay, is today. The best time. But the second best time was, I tell you, it was a long time ago. That's really when we should have done it, but it's still okay to get it in. So today I'm going to talk to you now about some of the elements you need to look at. I'm going to start with a little short quiz for you. Okay, if you can get some, just put in the comments afterwards. It'd be fun just to see. We're going to look at one or two historical incidents where contractors caused problems in different companies. We're going to look at two things then, the secret of engagement, where we're going to look at basically how can you, especially if you're working on your own in health and safety, get engagement within your business. We've developed the 5 circles of compliance model, and that's then a very structured method that you can adopt yourself today then to put in a contractor management system. And then I'm going to talk to you, and what Eduardo has for you is a link to do, if you wish, at the end, a quick self-assessment to get a risk score for your business. The information today is shared for information and shouldn't be construed as advice. And if we're not connected on LinkedIn, it'd be fantastic to do so. I love the network because, you know, sometimes we can share information and we can be asked information and we can find out things through a big professional network of EHS professionals. This is typically a 3D type of diagram of most organizations. So they will have their business, okay, and they will have different contractors coming in. What I mean by a contractor is might be a civil contractor doing building, an electrical contractor doing electrical work. They might be coming in, they might be an IT contractor, a catering contractor. There's a whole range of contractors that come in and they're necessary for managing the business. But as I said, they're human and we need to treat them the same way as you're an employee. Just a quick, if you have a moment here, please, I'm just wondering, just for my own feedback, in your opinion, what's the most critical issue in contractor management today? Okay, just put a number in the chat as well there. The number one means you don't know exactly what contractors you have to manage, okay? And in truth, that's our experience. Even when we start off with companies, most of them say they have an official list. When you dig a little bit deeper, they don't really know who the main contractors are. The second challenge would be an inconsistent onboarding process. It works sometimes, it doesn't work others. So put a 2 if you feel that's the biggest one. Number 3 would be a delay in reviewing essential documents. Any risk documents the contractor sends into you, you're not getting them back. It's not dynamic, it's not being done in real time. Number 4, if you think this is the biggest one, put in number 4 for you, an ineffective contractor induction training. So you have contractors coming to your facility today, and you want to make sure that they are trained before they arrive at your facility so they're aware of everything. And if that's not done effectively, then obviously that's a problem. And number 5 is having poor reporting and analytics. So what I mean there is you're doing things, but you have no data. The finance department have all the data, the operations, the production department, they have metrics everywhere. But when it comes to health and safety, maybe it's just something about accidents, something historic, something not too proactive. So if you had a chance to put in a number there, it'd be great. And we can maybe check the tally later on. History is littered with many examples. And afterwards as well, as a bonus for people today, I'm going to share with Eduardo a link to a website where we are creating a list of all of the different incidents typically involving contractors around the world. We put them in as like a blog, and we're updating that each day and each week as we go through. So I think the best way we can learn about the future is to look at the past, okay? And that's how because history has a tendency to repeat ourselves, but these are the free lessons in life, and we need to learn from them. One of the incidents here, it happened in Texas, okay? Over here, we have the Flint water crisis, and that was a contractor failed to add a corrosion inhibitor to the water supply, and the whole city got contaminated with lead. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill, again, a major oil spill, world famous, and that's the negative thing here. When things happen, basically, it travels around the world, bad news. So there was a job by Transocean and Halliburton for cementing the well, and all three companies later on were found to have contributed to disaster. Another one is in London. That came up again last year when the report was issued, or it's kind of still ongoing to some degree, but was a big building tower in London. And again, it was related back to a contractor and the type of installation of cladding they had. And finally, there was a fertilizer explosion again in Texas, and the company had an inadequate storage of ammonium nitrate, and that was basically found to, the role of the contractor inside there contributed to the explosion, and there are quite a few people died in that. We'll have a list of more of these after, but contractors do come in, and they can change the dynamic of your business negatively, okay, as well as positively, so they need to be managed. So what I'm going to do is just talk to you about some of the points that I think are important for you to consider when you want to look at all of your contractors and how you are going to manage them today. So I want to create the concept for you of two firewalls. One firewall, a firewall is like you have in your computer, okay? We keep the viruses out, the bad things that happen, the malware. We do that by having a firewall around our business. We want to do the same in a virtual sense for our contractors. We want to create a system where we let the good contractors come in over here and we keep the bad contractors out. They're the people who maybe have had lots of accidents. They don't care so much about the quality or the safety or what we're doing, and we just don't want them coming in. So the first one is having a firewall at the entrance, and later on, when these contractors are working inside your facility, we're also looking down here at maybe how else can we control them. There's a second firewall that I'm going to introduce down here as well. So if you are looking at your system today, and you might be on your own, okay, in terms of health and safety, your main focus, of course, will be in terms of making sure you deliver compliance for your company, that everything is compliant. And if we look at a scale, the negative is over here on the left, and on the right is the positive. So what we want to do is, of course, we want to be over here. We want to be fully compliant. But if we add to this as well, another scale, another axis, and in this one, we need engagement, okay? Because this is, when we talk about managing contractors, it's not something we can do on our own. We have to get engagement within our own business and then reaching outside the business to the contractor community as well. So in that sense, we need to get engagement, and typically the main parties that we want to look at are going to be the environmental health and safety department. So he or she, right, they're generally familiar with the requirements that you have to manage contractors, that you can't do nothing, and that there are certain requirements you need to do. However, typically the environmental health and safety department are not the people bringing in the contractors. They're not the main engine, but they need to educate other people at least. The other department we have here is the facilities or engineering department, okay? They are the people typically with the big budgets and bringing in lots of contractors to get the job done over here, okay? So what needs to happen is safety needs to educate facilities, And then facilities need to do whatever safety say and work out together a process. Security is another one over here. So with security, they're going to be the first port of call. Or maybe you don't have a security, maybe it's reception, somebody there, the office. They're going to be the first point of contact. And again, they're another important player in this equation today. So if we're looking at a situation where we do not have much engagement, okay, so maybe you're on your own and you don't have much engagement with other departments, okay, outside. And also you're not 100%, you're not even, to be honest, 50% sure of what you should be checking. You have an idea, but you're not certain. Then you can end up in this situation, maybe not so compliant, not much engagement. And that's a high risk situation, okay? That's rolling the dice, it's taking a chance, and that's where something probably is going to go wrong. Where we want to be is over here, where we know what it is we need to be checking. And finally, also, we have complete engagement within our business and even outside to the contractors. That's what we call the happy zone. And of course, we want to come from the high risk situation to the happy zone as fast as we can. Along the way, okay, we might also be in this situation where you are still working on your own, or this isn't a company-wide approach to managing contractors, it's still very local. Okay, you know what you need to check. You've done your homework, you've checked it out, great, but you're still on your own. That might be called the lucky zone, okay? So thank God something hasn't happened yet. And the other place we might be is over here. And this is basically where you're not quite sure of what it is you need to check. But to be honest, you do have good engagement. Your company is committed and they want to do the right thing, but you have gaps over here. You need to do some work to figure out what exactly do I need to check. And that's what I call the Excel sheet. So to come from the high risk to the happy zone, we might pass through the lucky zone or the Excel sheet zone, and we come here to the happy. But there's one other thing as well. Within the happy, there's a little area that we call the 5 circles of compliance. So what do I mean by the 5 circles of compliance? These are the conceptual stages of a system that if you look at all of them, you will build up an effective contractor management system for yourself. So we're going to look at getting the engagement right, of course, and that's a core part of this approach here. So typically the first circle, there's 5 circles when we go through, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the first circle over here is in terms of what companies we're bringing in. So I'm going to go through from the outside circle to the inside circle one at a time. So if we look here in terms of what companies are working with you today, it seems like a very obvious question, okay? And when we start off our journey helping our clients improve their contractor management system, we oftentimes get a list of contractors at the beginning and they say, this is it, this is it. And I would say that at best 80% of that list it's at best 80% complete, just 80%. Because what happens is some companies on that list are there and they haven't come and worked for your business for 5 or 10 years. There's other companies who only started work in the last 1 or 2 months and they're not on the list yet because it's the official list and it takes time. And here's the problem with that. If you don't know who your main contractor companies are, okay, then you certainly don't know who the subcontractor is, or the subcontractor, or the subcontractor. You think you are working with company ABC, but in actual fact, ABC has subcontracted work to XYZ, and maybe they subcontracted again. This is now your problem. You cannot take a position of saying, well, we work with ABC, and ABC will look after everybody who works beneath them. That's not the way this works if you're going to do it properly. You have to get this under control. So you need to find a way of identifying, maybe user 1 as a primary contractor, 2 as a subcontractor, 3 as a subcontractor, but you need to know them all. Here is another thing about the contractor companies coming in as well. You need to check this on your own insurance policies, but what typically happens with contractor companies is you will get a copy of their insurance, but your own insurance in your company will tell you if you bring a contractor in to work for your company and it ends up that they don't have insurance or there's a problem with their insurance, then your own insurance is cancelled. It's null and void. So I'm going to repeat that because it's so important. If you, the client, bring in contractors to work for you, okay, and you do not check their insurance policies, and they come in and they create a problem for you, there's an incident, in that case, your own insurance company will say, oh, you didn't read page 58. It's in font size 2, very small. It's in white ink, you can see it, and it's on the bottom left of your page, right? So that's you have to be really careful of that clause in your policies, because all of a sudden the nasty incident and you have to foot the bill. So they're just some of the things that you'd look at. So you'd certainly look at, say, insurances. You'd want to be looking at a process for how they can send you in documentation, maybe JSAs, JHAs, RAMs, risk assessments, okay? You need to look at how you can control that back and forth as well. If they're using equipment, they might need equipment certificates. If they're sending in chemicals, safety data sheets. You need to make a list of everything under this circle. Under this circle, what is it that you need to check inside there? Okay, so once you've considered the company details, the next thing we're going to look at is the employee details. And the thing about the employees, as I mentioned a while ago, the first thing you want to make sure is, do you know which employee is coming in? Is it from contractor ABC? Or is it from contractor XYZ? Or is it from another contractor? You need to know, because again, the insurances and everything else you need to see, it keeps going down each level. Whatever you ask at the top, it has to cascade down. And you want to be dealing directly or be getting that information directly. No filters inside. The second thing you need to be aware of when you're looking at the contractor employees is they're supposed to be demonstrating to you that they are competent. Most companies today, they will check training records. But to check competence, you need to look at not just training, but other things like education and experience and so forth as well. So employees, checking training is not enough. You need to go through and decide. And then decide what else in terms of the employees do you want to check as well. The third thing is where you can clearly define your own site requirements. So if I'm going to work in your facility tomorrow, what do I need to know in advance? What information do I need to provide to you? Because to be fair, if you don't tell me, how can I comply? I can guess some of it, but you need to be super clear yourself in terms of what I need to present to you to come on site. And we already looked at, really, there's two channels, the company information and the employee information. That's a good starting point inside. Between those two, come and spell out that all of that information then for yourself inside there. So as you can see, we're building up the profile, and now at least we know what it is we're going to ask for ask the contractors to provide us. That leads us into the fourth circle, which is the registration process. So this is really where you need to look at what is the first point of contact you have with your contractors coming on site. Typically that might be at security, where they might get a pass or they sign in. And if you don't have security, that would probably later on, it could be inside at the reception in the building, somebody signing again. But anybody can come in and sign in. Okay, so you need to make this a live, dynamic situation where even before I go and visit you tomorrow, who brought me in? Who decided you need my company? And is everything in my company up to date? Am I trained and competent and so forth for what I'm going to be doing? And then when I arrive, okay, check that again. In fact, if you could link in to like an access control or a visitor management system, you get this information 24/7, 365. You get it day and night, every day. Every time I check in, there should be a simple check. And if something is not good, if something has turned from green good to red bad, then maybe the system can alert you to say, hey, you need to talk to Mr. Dan because something is not compliant anymore. So it needs to be real time inside there, okay? The other thing you might check inside here, and something we saw a big swing towards during COVID, was a bigger acceptance of contractor employees doing online training, doing a contractor induction training before they even come to your company. So they do this training in their own time and at their own expense. So you put up the training, they do it, they go through that training in their time at their own expense. Now, the way you structure these training courses is important. You shouldn't be kind of teaching people how to use a ladder safely if they're using ladders every day. You need to kind of cover certain things and make it more about the business. If your business is critically important using ladders, okay, include it. But typically, you don't want to be teaching people. It's not a college degree course on safety. You want to talk to them about your business and what the key hazards are and what your expectations are. So there's a way of structuring these online training programs as well. And again, we could check at the registration process, is it done? Finally, the fifth circle is when we are working, and particularly for high risk work, typically we might get a piece of paper and it might be a work permit, okay? So for working at heights, working to do with hot work, welding, work on any naked flame, going underground, confined spaces, or going into tanks as well, we'd have permits. The question I have for you today is, would it be possible for me to go down to one of your colleagues tomorrow who's very busy doing lots of permits and to say, hi, give me a permit please for this area? Would they know me? Do they know anything about me? And in truth, in most systems today, when it's on paper, the person giving the permit issuer, doesn't know who's standing in front of them, especially if it's during a shutdown. So you need to look at a way here of how can we create a link from our permit to work system back to our information about all of the contractors, okay? And that's where, again, if you have electronic tools, that becomes easier. And even if you don't have electronic, just consider introducing some check inside there to make sure those details, at least you know who you're giving the permit to, and check things like their insurance, have they done the induction training, and also if they are doing hot work, have they done a recognized hot work training course as well. They're just some of the examples inside there. So I mentioned the contact points for policing. There are 2 you can link into somehow. Check the details over here. Maybe when in the access control or your visitor management, check the details when they come in there. And again, check within the work permit process as well. So that's the framework we created to try explain the 5 circles of compliance, what companies you're bringing in, which employees of those companies, and particularly focusing on competency, okay, and subcontractor, your own requirements, the registration process itself, okay, in terms of how are you engaging with those contractors for the first time they come in, and for certain high risk work, at least you're using the permit to work, and you need to create your own firewall, okay. And our suggestion there is to create a simple traffic light system, okay? So green is good. I have an insurance policy. It's within its 12-month validity period. Fantastic, okay? Green is good because I have done manual handling training and I'm within my 3-year period, okay? Orange might be some information that's still okay, but it's about to expire next month. And red information, it's out of date. It's gone past, I need to get some new information. So if you look at your critical information and put traffic lights on that, then you're able to at least get a very visual representation back to yourself in terms of what it is you need to be checking. I gave you examples already of the company details and the employee details. Your next topic there should be to look at what reports you need. And again, this is something you want a really good report system in terms of to get the right information to the right people at the right time. The challenge here is if you use one report for everybody, like a one-size-fits-all approach, that isn't necessarily good. It might be too much information for one group of people. It's too little for another. So create custom reports for your different audiences, for the different people who need them, and send them the information as they need it. It might be daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is. Secondly, you might look at putting in alerts as well. Alerts are typically when something goes out of date. Sometimes in some of our clients, they have a system where if something goes out of date for a contractor, immediately an alert goes to the company and it says, hey, this is out of date, and their access is revoked. They're taking off the access. So for you, it's just a case of thinking for yourself, what's critical if this changed overnight? Okay, what do I need to know? Because the example here is you might have 100 contractors with 10 employees. That's 100 contractors, 10 employees, that's 1,000 bits of data. And if each contractor or employee had 5 training courses, even just training, that's 5,000 bits of data you have to manage. And that's a very dynamic process then as well, because it changes daily, weekly, monthly, and everything inside there. So the last thing just to mention on this slide is you need to do that all the way down to the subcontractor, the subcontractor, the subcontractor, the whole way down. Okay, and you can't say to the main contractor, you look after everything else, because as I told you already, even from an insurance perspective, you're going to have a problem. You let somebody on who wasn't insured, okay? And you're going to be the one footing the bill. You're going to be the one tidying up the mess. So this is something you need to get structured properly. I'm not going to go into today. We do tools as well. We help companies to go on that journey. What I want to do, and we keep everything just very visual, but what I want to introduce to you in a second is we built a questionnaire that Eduardo will give you, which I think might help you. We want to build in over here to give you a score, a risk score today by completing a questionnaire. It takes maybe 2 to 3 minutes, right? We'll ask you questions and we're going to give you feedback. We've helped companies improve. Some of these are very big. We've other companies very small and everything. These are more well-known brands. Just recently, before Christmas, Pfizer told us in one of their locations, they managed to get a global award because of the way they're now managing contractors. So we're very happy for them, the way they're using their approaches as well. But it's like everything. Yes, we have the tools, but they need to be used by somebody who knows, who wants to do this. So with the questionnaire, okay, and I'm going to ask maybe if there are any questions now, but we're going to give you a link to a questionnaire, 16 questions. And for anybody, for the first 3 or 4 people who come back and who do it as well, if you want to go through that questionnaire with me, I will mark out half an hour and I will go through it with you. Okay, if you want to go through that, if contractor management, and there's no cost for that. Okay, absolutely nothing. But if you want to go through it, anyone who goes through, we're going to give you a PDF report and we'll give you feedback on every question based on the answers you put in. We're going to give you some feedback, and I hope that will help you on your own journey then to getting a better contractor management system in place. So I'm going to go just put up a sample, just a questionnaire, just briefly. So you're going to see over here a link to this questionnaire. You just put in your name, company, the sector you're in. It doesn't matter, just put in some sector, but it's nice. We try to build up the statistics and see what scores we're getting. On average, say people score 52 to 60% in this sector. It's your result. It's not going to be shared with anybody. It's yours, privacy. We don't do sharing, but we might aggregate the data, as I said, to say on average in this sector that these were the average results. But if you go through that, okay, and you go through it, you will get a score on the screen. And then we will, if you want, we'll give you a report. And if you want to discuss that report, we'd be happy to do it. But the results are there for yourself as well. Okay, Maria, I'll just hand it back to you, see if I missed anything, and maybe if there were any questions as well. Maria?
Okay, thank you. Yes, so Eduardo, Dan ha presentado el producto Entonces ahora, bueno, queremos saber si tienen alguna pregunta sobre el tema. Eduardo, ¿estás mute?
Sí, adelante, Eduardo.
Sí, María, vamos a hacer un resumen de lo que Dan dijo. Darlo tú primero y después lo hago yo.
Bueno, básicamente Dan ha presentado el portal del contratista.
Y después vamos a las preguntas.
Sí, ok. So, básicamente Dan ha presentado el portal del contratista, que es el producto que nosotros tenemos, en el cual ayudamos a los clientes a manejar a todos sus contratistas. Y él ha puesto varios ejemplos de situaciones que han ocurrido en el mundo cuando no manejamos apropiadamente a los contratistas en las empresas de los clientes. Bien. Entonces, él ha puesto ejemplos, por ejemplo, de las cosas que tenemos que controlar. Los requisitos del sitio. Es importante que tú le digas al contratista qué es lo que tú esperas de él. Él ha presentado también los documentos, por ejemplo, que los contratistas pueden agregar al sistema, que son los documentos de la empresa, pero también documentos del empleado. Usted tiene que saber quién es el empleado que está entrando en su instalación, si ese empleado está asegurado o no. Y Dan ha mencionado algo interesante. Si ocurre alguna situación y usted no ha chequeado el seguro de esa empresa, su propio seguro puede verse afectado por este tema. Entonces, también Dan ha presentado también el tema de inducción, lo cual es muy importante, como hemos hablado en otras ocasiones, Eduardo. El tema de que del contratista tiene que saber qué ocurre en la instalación, qué sonidos puede escuchar, que puede ser, no, por ejemplo, el sonido de algún motor o algo que pueda pensar él que es otra cosa. Él tiene que saber qué sonido es ese. Él tiene que saber dónde parquear en la instalación, tiene que saber por qué caminos tomar. O sea, hay un proceso de inducción inicial que es interesante y es muy importante y que puede salvar vidas a los contratistas. Entonces, bueno, básicamente ha sido esto. Él ha presentado al final el tema del cuestionario, que es un breve cuestionario que vamos a compartir con ustedes, en el cual pueden decir cómo manejan sus contratistas y entonces nosotros podemos hacerle como un resumen y darles algunas opiniones, algunas recomendaciones a cómo manejar a sus contratistas. Es básicamente lo que Dan ha hecho hasta ahora, Eduardo.
Sí, excelente María, excelente presentación por parte de Dan, creo que es bastante completo. Yo que conozco el programa, este software acaba con muchos vicios para prevenir accidentes, ¿no? Empezando que si la empresa puede ganar la licitación, pero le falta algunos documentos, pues empieza el trabajo desde seguridad, no puede entrar a la instalación. Le prohíben entrar a la instalación y si la dejan entrar, creo que va a ser responsabilidad de la persona que lo deja entrar o que la autoriza. También hemos hablado del entrenamiento, ¿verdad? De las competencias que se necesita de los trabajadores. Es decir, si un operador de una grúa no está certificado, no puede operar la grúa. O si le falta algún documento, el sistema lo va a reflejar. Es un sistema bastante completo que yo se lo recomiendo. Nosotros que venimos de la empresa de la química, minera, petrolera, y la farmacéutica también veo que está allí incluida.
Sí.
Yo les recomiendo si algún miembro de PDVSA, algún miembro de Chevron, algún miembro de Shell, algún miembro de Halliburton ha visto este tema, puede contactarnos a nosotros por los teléfonos que se van a presentar y nosotros con mucho gusto canalizaremos la aplicación de este software en su empresa a través de EHA Software Solution. Bueno, María, vamos a pasar algunas preguntas. Javier, vamos a pasar algunas preguntas que la gente puede haber hecho.
Sí, me estaban comentando por acá vía la situación de que obviamente se menciona el enfoque de sistémico que va del trabajo seguro y de qué manera pudiese eso relacionarse con las normas ISO, con el cumplimiento de las normas ISO. ¿Qué nos puede decir Dan al respecto?
Okay. So Dan, they are asking the relationship between the system and the ISO. The ISO.
Okay, so ISO 45000 is the international standard for health and safety. That mentions over 20 times the need to manage contractors. So again, as a bonus, I have a link that I can send here where we could say where exactly it manages it. So from our system, we meet all of those requirements and more. You need obviously to put in some documentation things, but that's what we help to achieve inside. We go above that using our own approach, Maria. We do a portal like the company details, the employee details. If they want to do the online training, they can add on that layer. If they want to do the work permit, they can add on that layer. If they want to tie in and do access control, visitor management, that layer. So I think in the journey to improve, you need to go on steps, and all of those steps we outlined in the 5 circles, and we can of course help you, but today was to just explain what those steps are, and maybe people can make their own improvements themselves with their existing system too. So.
Okay. Entonces, ¿necesitas la traducción de esto?
Sí, por favor, María.
Ok, sí, básicamente le está diciendo que el sistema está diseñado. El sistema está diseñado para ayudar a las empresas a estar en cumplimiento con la ISO 45001, ¿ya? El asunto es que, bueno, estaría dependiendo de los módulos que usted utilice en el sistema, pero sí, tenemos todo diseñado para que cualquier empresa que esté certificada en pasos en camino a certificarse pueda utilizar el sistema como gran apoyo para ello. Básicamente, fue lo que dijo. I think Dan is gone. Okay.
Adicionalmente, también, bueno, Dan salió de pantalla.
Sí.
Salió
Voy a pedirle que...
Salió de pantalla, Dan. Quería comentar que sí, es muy probable. Quería comentar, ya está.
Si hay otra pregunta, si hay otra pregunta,
ya
puedes hacerla.
El escenario.
Si hay otra pregunta, puedes hacerla, Javier.
Sí, quería comentar también, me llega aquí un comentario. Sí, ya está Dan en cámara. Un comentario sobre, acá en Venezuela tenemos empresas extranjeras operando en algunos campos, entre ellas Chevron, Repsol, Eni, la italiana, empresas de la India, que forman estas compañías mixtas. Querían saber si alguna de esas casas matriz, como Eni o Repsol, están usando este tipo de tecnología.
Okay. Just Dan, he's mentioning clients, for example, Eni from Italy, right? Chevron, and also another company from India. Did you mention that name, the company from India?
I can't remember offhand, but when we have 2 types of customers, we have the clients who use the portal, but also contractors, the individual, and they're from all over the world. So I couldn't keep up. There are lots of, from here to Japan, there's contractors on the system.
Okay.
So, does that answer the question, Marie?
Yeah, he's asking if these clients are using currently this tool on the system. These specific clients. Eni, Chevron.
I don't know. I don't think on Chevron, but afterward, I had a sample list up a while ago. But
yes,
we'd be happy to help them if they did. I don't know all of them off the top of my head.
Got it. So, él me está diciendo que en estos momentos, bueno, tendríamos que chequear, pero Eni no y Chevron no. Pero él compartió en la pantalla un slide donde, una planillita donde están los principales clientes que están utilizando nuestro sistema, como Pfizer, como Circle K, ese es otro de los clientes que opera en Estados Unidos también. Grifols, una farmacéutica.
There's some in the life science mainly,
Yes,
but
that's right.
there's more outside. These are mainly
Yeah.
life science and stuff
Sí,
like that.
y que por supuesto estaríamos abiertos a cualquier solicitud de parte de cualquier cliente nuevo para poderlo hacerle una demostración del sistema y demás. ¿Cómo
I
no?
think, Maria, in truth, the system, anybody who's
Excelente.
got more than 20 or 30 contractors, the system lends itself to them
Got it.
because some companies have hundreds of contractors, if not more. But all we try to do is give them a process. We have a process that they manage, and we try to make it as simple as possible inside there.
Yes.
And keep the traffic lights there. But there's no limitation in terms of the sector. There's no limitation in the size. But we find typically if you have more than 20 or 30, it's going to be a big value.
Entonces lo que me está diciendo es que si tienes más de 20 contratistas, clasificas perfectamente de acuerdo a la experiencia, ¿no? Y nosotros lo ayudamos a crear sus sistemas y demás. Es así como funciona.
María, uno de los objetivos que perseguimos nosotros con este conversatorio es demostrarle a las empresas petroleras que siguen llevando su sistema de prevención de accidentes con contratistas manualmente y que existe este software que puede ayudarlo muchísimo. A mi entender, ni PDVSA, ni Chevron, ni las empresas petroleras conocían de este software. Por eso es que nosotros, HSE Solution, en colaboración con ustedes, en apoyo de ustedes, queremos dar a conocer que existe este software para ellos y que pueden perfectamente tenerlo a su disposición, igual que la empresa minera. Y queremos decirle a la empresa minera que este sistema es compatible con el sistema SAC, que lo pueden utilizar perfectamente también para el control de su contratista.
Sí, como no, Dan está explicando que estamos presentes en cualquier parte del mundo, right, Dan? We are all over the world.
Yeah.
That's no problem about the client. There is no limitation. No
different
hay
languages
limitante
as well,
para eso. No hay limitantes para eso. No hay problema ninguno.
Yeah.
Y estamos de acuerdo contigo en eso.
Y,
es interesante poderlo presentar este sistema.
Cabe resaltar que el enfoque que tiene el portal de contratista va de la mano de las empresas que ya están bajo lo que llamamos la trinorma, que es la ISO 9000, 14000 y 45000. Y esto es un paso adelante para la certificación en los sistemas de QHSE que puedan tener las empresas, no solo nacionales, sino también las transnacionales que van a llegar a Venezuela. Por eso estamos seguros que este portal de contratista de software solución va a ser muy las empresas entiendan cómo esta herramienta les va a ayudar en la gestión general basado en la norma y con el apoyo.
100% de acuerdo.
Bueno,
en efecto, realmente
sí, Eduardo.
Que los interesados puedan acceder a un demo. Eso es muy importante, que quede registrado y nosotros lo vamos a promocionar de esa manera, que puedan entrar a un demo a través de la página de HSE en función de que conozcan un poco el sistema, así como lo hizo Dan en esta importante exposición. Edward, ¿quería decir algo?
Sí, no hay más preguntas, Javier.
No, el asunto que ya contando con el demo, con el link para hacer la demostración a través de HSE, de las redes de HSE, podemos entonces darle el abreboca a los interesados para que conozcan esta interesante herramienta.
Dan acaba de compartir el link en los comentarios. Okay. Para usted.
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's public yet, Maria, but I put in 2 links. One is to the questionnaire. So if anybody wants to do it, they'll get a PDF report and we give them feedback on all 16 questions. If they'd like to hop on a call and review it, we'll do that. There's an option. And the second
Sí.
one I can share as well is just about ISO 45000, where it mentions the need to manage contractors.
Dan ha
So,
compartido varios links de importancia. Este link con el que puede presentar el demo y también para las ISO, para más información sobre las ISO, cómo podemos ayudarlo. Él ha compartido ese link con ustedes ahora mismo en el chat.
So I don't know if they're public, Maria. I think if you could check with Eduardo, but they're there. If you want
Sí,
to
él me está preguntando si es público o no.
Sí,
Bueno,
que lo coloque en el chat.
En el chat. He's saying that you can put it on the chat, but it's there. It's in the private chat. It's saying like that.
En la página.
Okay.
Bueno, una palabra de despedida.
Y ahí, al estar en el chat.
Okay.
No puedes verlo todavía
sí, obvio,
el chat.
Obvio.
Okay.
Porque al tenerlo aquí en el chat, pantalla, fijo el link en pantalla.
Okay.
Bueno.
Hay un teléfono sonando. Ok.
Bueno, a ver si...
Ok, y si no, de todas maneras lo montamos en nuestra página con el detalle para que nuestros interesados, nuestros aliados y amigos puedan ver el link y conectarse con el demo de este interesante portal. Realmente interesantísimo el enfoque que le da al manejo de, más que control, registro. Y allí lo decía en uno de sus módulos, la parte de registro es más importante que controlar, porque teniendo todo lo que se puede medir, se puede entonces corregir. Obviamente es parte esencial de este enfoque. Adelante, Eduardo, entonces un mensaje final para aparte de agradecer a Dan y a María por este tiempo y el enfoque que le estamos dando a esta importante herramienta. Adelante, Eduardo.
Bueno, María, finalmente queremos agradecer a ustedes su buena disposición por compartir con nosotros y con el mundo entero la disponibilidad de este portal. Gracias, mil gracias por haber aceptado nuestra invitación y quedamos pendientes para una segunda exposición en un futuro no muy lejano y por haber confiado en nosotros, darnos toda la confianza. Verdad que 1.000.000 de gracias, Dan, excelente Dan, muchas gracias. María, muchas gracias.
Dan, él está diciendo que muchas gracias por haber aceptado. Dan, he's saying that he is very happy that we accept the invitation to this channel of the trust that we are giving to them. That's what Eduardo is saying.
We're delighted to participate. I'm sorry my Spanish isn't good enough to chance on the group, but I hope the information is good. I hope people do the score. I hope they get the resources we shared. I hope they're useful, truly.
Yeah.
That's just nothing more sharing that I'm happy.
Dan está también agradeciendo por habernos invitado y yo también, mi nombre también, muchas gracias por eso y esperamos que los recursos que Dan ha compartido con ustedes, pues bueno, pues la comunidad lo pueda recibir y puedan hacer el demo y eso sería muy interesante también. Nosotros en la mejor disposición de apoyarte. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Gracias.
Muchas gracias a ustedes también. Buenas tardes, buenas noches, respectivamente. Nosotros acá ya estamos al filo del mediodía y la invitación a que estén atentos a las redes de HSE, donde tendremos el enlace para la demostración de este interesantísimo sistema que es una herramienta vital para el desarrollo de una gestión efectiva de seguridad y salud en el trabajo a nivel mundial. No solo Venezuela, sino a nivel mundial. Gracias de nuevo, Dan. Gracias, María. Y estamos pendientes para una próxima oportunidad. Que tengan todos muy buenos días.
Muchas gracias. Chao, chao.
Chao.